Welcome to the Marketing and Mindset Podcast, where we share expert tips for the mind, body, and soul to help your business thrive. Tune in for free marketing or mindset expert training to boost your business. Hello, welcome to Marketing and Mindset. My name is Vanessa Cooper. I'm a Pinterest marketing expert and content creator. And as always, I'm so excited to be here today with a new guest speaker to give you guys just amazing knowledge to help your business grow. Today, we have Katherine Suzette, who is going to be teaching us about self-image and self-presentation, which is a topic we haven't discussed on here before. So I'm so excited to get into this conversation and learn and grow. And with that being said, Katherine, if you could introduce yourself, let us know who you are, what you do, and just a little bit of history about how you got started with your business.
Well, hello, Vanessa. I'm so excited to be here. I'm Katherine, and I'm a personal stylist / body language coach. And put those together, and what have you got? Self-presentation. So I help people to present themselves better, both to the world and to themselves. And that's where the self-image tends to play in, that it's the internal person that we are working on so that the external presentation is what they want.
That's awesome. Yeah, I feel like people really struggle with that in general, like being themselves. I think especially in the online and business world, people feel a little vulnerable to really like just be themselves, and present themselves in a certain way. So it's very interesting. When it comes to like self-image, like how would you, someone listening to this and they have never even thought about self-image or self-presentation, like how do you really like define that, like for dummies, I guess, or somebody who really doesn't understand what that means?
Okay, that's a great question and not one that I've answered specifically. So well done, you. I think of it much like a personal branding type thing, but that's me. And that's kind of the external perspective. For the person who's never gone down that road, they probably don't know what it means to be authentic or find authenticity and things like that. And that is where self-image is best used, is when we can truly pull the real person out.
Right.
And in so doing, create the person that they truly want to be. Because I believe that those two things are kind of one and the same. They are complements to each other.
Right.
So self-image for dummies is getting to know yourself, basically, and then learning how to present that and to become that the way that you want it to be.
Okay, awesome. And that made me think of getting to know yourself. And you say that, it made me wonder, like, are there any signs, whether it's, someone who's doing an online business or just someone in their general life, that things that maybe people go through that's kind of like red flags that they're struggling with their self-image, that you can share with us? That way people know, like, oh my gosh, that's what's going on.
Yes, I would say a lot of that is inconsistency and this feeling of unalignment with oneself. And it does come out. It comes out in their energy. It comes out in their nonverbal communication, i.e. body language. It comes out in the way that they speak to people. And it's just this inconsistency. So if in one moment one person feels completely aligned with themselves, they're just basking in the glory of being themselves, and they're like, oh, this is what it feels like. And then they walk down the street and they're doing something, and then all of a sudden they like are pulled out of their system and they are completely unaligned now and completely awkward and everything changes.
Right.
Well, then I would say that there is a problem with them embodying that on a consistent level, which is to say that their self-image hasn't been defined or interacted with enough.
Right.
And so that person, I would do a lot more exploration in that first moment where they're like feeling themselves and figure out how they can live in that more consistently.
Nice. And do you feel like people kind of do this subconsciously? Do you know what I mean? Like, do you think it's something that people sort of like habitually start doing and they don't actually realize it until they're kind of like split into who they act like or who they might present themselves as versus who they really are, and they don't even consciously like are aware of it?
Absolutely. Okay. As a personal stylist, we talk about these goals and roles in life. So we're dressing a person for their goals and their roles. I also add, I dress them for their souls, goals, roles, and souls. But most especially these roles kind of change us. They pull us out of where we want to be. If somebody doesn't have to do anything in the world or become anything other than themselves, then they don't necessarily change for the roles. But we have a society in which we have engineered roles so that you have to change for them.
Right.
And finding the complement between the two can be really, really difficult when, especially think back to high school with all the identity crises we've all been through. I mean, some of us start in middle school or younger, but we jump into these identity crises. Who am I? Why am I? Why am I
Yeah.
here? What is this? And then we start to learn how to function for the roles, not necessarily for the souls. And that is the first stage of like unalignment for most people. And, you know, some societies even do it from birth, where you're immediately put into roles by those people around you. And I legitimately don't know how I would function as a healthy human being without permission to become and to be. And thank goodness I live in an individualized society in which it is okay for me to do that self-exploration.
Right.
So, you know, just putting that out there, that this self-image and self-exploration is much more accessible for some people than others, just simply because of the society we live in and the families we're born into and things like that. But absolutely, your identity crisis in high school to the roles that you have learned to function in life.
Yeah.
It's not there's not a fault, there's just a reason.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And it's funny you mentioned high school, because I think back, like, what an identity crisis I had. Like, I went from like a weirdo in like daily SpongeBob clothing to like some artsy girl to like some like hippie girl. Like, it was just like I didn't even know how to dress, because I didn't even know like what I liked or who I was or what I was into. Like, it was so confusing. I remember that. And I think it's so funny how we go through life. Like, I think as in my adulthood, I was kind of just rushed through surviving adulthood, that I don't think it's been since like my 30s when I finally stopped really caring about what anybody thinks. I think I've hit like a stage where like, I'm going to wear the crazy red glasses. I'm going to wear, funky earrings. I have like animal earrings I wear. Like, I'm going to not care so much. And it's really like liberating. I almost wish that I had hit this sooner, to the whole like just being me more authentically, no matter what anybody thinks, because it's really freeing. So that's awesome that you like help people like kind of drive that out of themselves. So like, how can it affect businesses? Like my audience, a lot of them are business owners, and so they're listening to this. Like, how can not presenting to yourself well, or knowing who you are, um explain to us like how self-presentation and like businesses coincide and how it can affect your business.
Yeah, so that ties back into the consistency thing. And when a business is consistent, and that includes the face of the business as a brand, then you build more like, know, and trust. So consistency equals like, know, and trust, right? And as a personal brand, which I'm assuming most of your audience is, they are smaller businesses where there is a face to the business, like with mine and with yours. We represent what we do and who we are, and that business kind of comes alongside us. So for businesses to do well, to do best, to gather followings of people that like, know, and trust them, they also need to give a little bit of themselves. And I don't mean this in an inauthentic way, like they design this personality online and then they, it's kind of like that whole imposter thing. And I don't even mean imposter syndrome. I mean, like, you are literally creating an avatar.
Yeah.
And you are functioning as an imposter. And that's not a wonderful state of being for you mentally. And that comes out in other ways, like that energy that I was talking about in the beginning with the person who walks down the street and gets pulled out of themselves for a minute.
Right.
But so a personal brand, when they are consistent, they build that like, know, and trust. And in order to do that, they really need to develop their brand voice and their brand image. And for the humans that are the face, that includes how they dress and how they communicate, how they use their communication effectively or ineffectively, so to speak. So I think that, or well, I know, I am convicted that for these personal brands, especially with how popular they've become and how well attuned our audiences are these days to that inauthenticity and inconsistency, we need to honor ourselves and like go within. We need to find that self-image. We need to engineer it and let it breathe. We need to step into that state of becoming so that we can have a healthier, bigger, authentic brand that people are attracted to and that we love to be in and be with and to
Yes.
to do things with and for.
Absolutely. I can imagine it'd be exhausting if you do create sort of like that avatar you're talking about, you know, like having to work to not just grow your business, but like be this, you know, perfect person that you're trying to be, you know, for your audience versus just being yourself. If you listen to previous episodes with Connie, my co-host that hasn't been able to make it, but she will, she talks a lot about when it comes to marketing, being your authentic self. Like she has said that exact verse verbatim so many times, and it's so important. It's something that I teach a lot of business owners when I'm working with them when it comes to marketing or just giving general advice for people who are stuck. They can't get sales, they can't get growth on social media or wherever they're trying to grow. I find so many people focus so much on the business itself, and I have to remind people, you know, whatever, unless you patented and created and invented a unique product, whatever you have to offer, service or your product, you know, whatever it is that you have to offer, there are millions of other people offering that same service, that same product. You know, like how many Pinterest marketers are there out there? Like I know a ton. You know, I'm in groups with thousands and thousands and thousands of them. There are so many people selling what you're selling. So essentially what you need to sell is yourself. And this is how I teach my students, you know, is you need to be yourself. You don't need to attract your audience by your service so much, but you need to attract your audience by you, people who like you. You know, I think Connie says, find your people, you know, they fall in love with you and who you are and your knowledge and your expertise and how you teach and how you talk and what you offer. And then, you know, the business comes along with it. But I think it is so important, like you say, to like really authentically be you, because that's really what's going to attract your people, the people who are going to convert or who are going to buy and are going to, you know, bring you growth to your business. How can also, I wanted to ask, you know, if you're struggling with your self-image, if you're not presenting yourself authentically, how can that affect, or can it affect your mindset?
Yeah, actually I want to address something that I thought of while you were talking just a moment ago that I think is part of like what I was trying to communicate before, but you know, I'm sleepy. I'm tired.
It's
Girl
okay.
has not woke her brain up yet. But being you and being authentic and just do you, babe, and all of that, like it's brilliant. I love it. I am all for it. But the struggle we experience on an individual level is like, okay, what does that mean for me?
Right.
How do I discover that authenticity? Like it's great to hear that all day long. Like I have permission to be me. But how do we find the me? How do we
Yeah.
represent the me? All of that. Like that's where I come in, is like helping people to find these paths and these connections to explore and give them permission to begin to do those things. Like when you started to self-express more authentically, you talk about like your red glasses and like you had your hippie phase and you had this phase and that phase and things like that. Like that self-exploration, you needed to give yourself permission to explore and to find what vibes with you, what aligns with you, your message and your personality and everything.
Right.
Okay, rant over. Would you please ask your question again?
Oh, no, no, no. That was good because you're right. Like, no, with what you're saying, um, some people have no idea how to be themselves, you know? Which I guess to me, I really just needed to quit caring about what people thought and just do, you know? But I can't imagine people getting stuck with like, what does that mean? Does it mean I dress how I want to dress? Does that mean I say what I want to say? You know, no filters, you know? So I love that you kind of help with that specifically too, getting people unstuck with not knowing where to go. My question was, how can it affect someone's mindset? Someone who's either got that avatar you were talking about, where they've created this online presence that it's not really them, or just someone who's just like not even come out of their shell, if I may.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've been there. That's part of why I'm here and I talk about this. And that's probably part of why most of the people in the realms of personal branding and styling and things like that are doing what they're doing, is because they got stuck in these areas, they learned how to get out of them, and now they're passing on their knowledge and their skills. And it feels like you're stuck somewhere inside of yourself and you can't access it. Like the person you want to be is just this random possibility, and it's too far out of your realm of ability.
Right.
Like whatever you were created for or born for, or whatever you're here for on this earth is arbitrary. Like you're arbitrary.
Right.
It's sad. It's a lack of connection, and it's a lack of permission. And a person can even, do affirmations and things all day long, like, I am me, I give myself permission and all that kind of thing, but that inner self is still locked away and they haven't found the key.
Right.
So
Yeah.
it's scary sometimes, and for some people to feel like they may never get to tap into that. They may never get to access that potential. They may never truly see what is possible for them.
Right.
And it's not a great feeling. So, but that's enough of the negativity, because what I really want people to see is that this possibility is there. It is accessible. The key does exist, and it is within us all. And sometimes one just needs to bring in a third person who can, like the third person perspective, who can help them to, journey through this a little bit more effectively for themselves. And the journey is different for everybody, right? But that third person perspective, that person who is trained to guide them in these journeys, it can not only be effective, but it can be exponential. It can be expansive. It can get you from A to Z so much quicker and more effectively. So we're just taking that long timeline, that lifelong journey of self-exploration, and bringing it down. That is not to say that we don't consistently evolve or consistently self-explore. We do.
Right.
But feeling aligned in the moment is kind of the goal of every day.
Right. Absolutely. So like what are some things you're like, let's get out of the negative. Let's see the light at the end of the tunnel and learn. For anyone who's like listening, they're like, oh my gosh, I'm definitely struggling with my self-image, my self-presentation, or I've got an avatar. Oh my gosh, I've got an avatar. Like I've got this fake online presence that I've created, how can people break from that? Like, what are some tips that you give your clients, to help them just like break free and get past this, this little hurdle when it comes to their self-image?
Yeah. So for a lot of them, and I have mostly worked with women, and I do engineer most of my things in that direction. So, I mean, I work with men too, but they need to talk. They need to get it off their chest. They need to just download with somebody else. And it's interesting, people do it in different ways. Like I call a specific person, or I write it down in my journal. And I was listening to one of my favorite podcasts today, and the girl just came on and she was like, I just need to tell you guys about this and like how my mind has been processing it. And then by the end of that, she's like, okay, thank you to whomever just listened, because I feel completely aligned again. I got it off my chest. I feel better. And then her audience, i.e. me, I'm like, oh, she's a real human being. This is the kind of process I have in my mind and things like that. So I recommend that people, when they feel unaligned or they have a moment outside of themselves, or a week or a month, whatever it is, years, they talk to somebody. And that somebody does not have to pitch in with their own ideas or their own opinions, unless the person calling or needing to get this stuff off their chest wants it.
Right.
But it helps in that kind of a case to have that third person, again, that is usually hired to be in that role, a therapist, a coach, a mentor, somebody like me who functions in the realm of coach, but is a personal stylist. There is both. I am both functions. So I recommend that they talk to somebody. And then I also recommend that they just start recording the times, like somehow with like a literal recorder or a journal or a Pinterest board, something like that. When they find the things that align with them, when they have those moments, like at the very beginning, that moment where you're like, oh, I feel completely myself. I feel free. I feel grounded, all of those things. Like, figure out what it is about that moment that made you feel that way, or that helped you feel that way, because
Right.
that's what you want more of, and that's what you want to explore.
Right.
So those are
Yeah.
the first two things. Like when you're unaligned, seek some way of realigning, processing, get to the other side of that much quicker.
Yeah.
And then when you are aligned, take note.
Okay. I love that. Those are two really good ones. And it's funny you mentioned that. It's so funny because like being, I guess, more authentic in my business is something that even just a few years ago when I first started, I really hadn't put much thought into it. And I really winged it when I launched my business anyways. But as my business grew, I started incorporating my love for plants into my branding. Like if you look at my website, you'll see little plant notes here and there. Yes, I mean, I'm like a crazy plant lady. Like if you saw the other side of my office, it's ridiculous. But I don't know. I just kind of started doing it because I was like, you know what? I love plants. I want to talk about plants. And I don't care if it's not even remotely related to Pinterest marketing. Like, I love it. And I want people to know that I love it. And I want to shout it at the top of mountains. Like, I love my plants. Like I'd walk around holding my little plants if I could. I have so many of them. And so I started incorporating that. And now something that I've had on my to-do list for like this past year that I just haven't gotten to, but that I plan on doing is literally rebranding, like doing photography. When you look at my photo for my business, I'm not even wearing my red glasses. And it was like early on, like these old frames before I really stepped out of my glasses wearing shell. And I didn't have any plans. And I was wearing this shirt that like I didn't even like. It was just like one of my nice shirts, like it was so not me. So now I see it and I like cringe, like, oh, gosh, I really need to change that. And I really need to rebrand. When I rebrand, I've already planned to throw a bunch of plants in the pictures. Like, I don't care. Like, I don't need to have myself in front of my laptop doing pins, like it's okay. You might look at me and be like, does she sell plants or does she do Pinterest marketing? And I'm like, you know what? You'll figure it out. Get to know me. This is just me. And so I just think that there's so much power with what you do, helping people break out of their shell, helping them get down to the nitty gritty of who they really want to be, who they really want to like present themselves as, like so many people struggle with this. And I think it makes social media marketing especially really difficult because they're scared to get behind the camera or scared of what they should say or shouldn't say, or, all of these things. And so I just think it's great that you do this, and your tips on you know, like making notes and like writing down. First, talking is good. And I think talking in general is good advice for anyone struggling with anything internally. But then like making notes of what they're into, what they like, really finding those things to kind of, bring that out is so powerful. I love it. Any last, because we're winding down now, any last bits of advice, to help anybody out struggling? Just one last general thing that you can give them, words of wisdom, if they're struggling with this self-image and self-presentation.
Yes. Okay. I do. But again, I'm going to comment first, like, because this is like such a conversational atmosphere. And I love that you've created that. I loved your About Me page. But if I had like just seen your picture, I would have been like, who is she? It doesn't mean much. It doesn't say much. And so your like, an alignment with it does communicate, but your website, your About Me page, all of that, I was like, oh, this is who she is. This is who I like. We can do this. I like her. All right. I see the personality and I see the permission to just get it
Right.
out there. So love that. Love that for you.
Thank
I'm
you.
glad to see you exploring that. And I can't wait for your plant farm pictures. I can't wait for, the cute little artistic hippie self in there getting into the nitty gritty with the plants. But okay, one last tip for everybody. Okay, so this is more of an affirmation, right? But and I did say that's not always the most effective, but I do want people to give themselves permission to explore.
Right.
So for some, that's not just permission to be because they don't know who that is, but it's permission to explore, permission to evolve, permission to change. Like they do not have to stay stuck. They can go on this journey and look for the things that they identify with, the things that are part of them, the things that are authentic. They have permission to explore. They can explore color, they can explore fit, they can explore different ways of communicating. Like, oh, that did not feel so good, or ooh, I liked that. Like your About Me page, like, ooh, I love it when people read that, right? So I want people to give themselves permission to explore.
Awesome. I love that. I really do. It's really such a powerful message, I think, because I see it. I see this struggle. I see people trying to be perfect in some way. Especially I see it a lot in the online, the online marketing, world. I see it so much. And if it's any comfort for anyone listening to this, like if you're in my email list, you will learn and know that I talk a lot about my adult ADD, my lack of time management, how busy I've been. Sorry I haven't messaged you in so long. My branding and when it comes to my emails is inconsistency. You already know that. Okay. I have a static page on Instagram because I believe in not getting burnt out on social media, and I just stick to really like Facebook. I'm more active on that, and Pinterest, and I have other marketing techniques that aren't really social media at all. So I represent that, but if you follow me, I'm very honest, and if it pushes clients away, like they're like, oh gosh, she's got adult ADD, she seems a little busy and disorganized, then you're not my people, but if you realize that I'm open with who I am, and even though I have adult ADD, even though I struggle with time management, I get the job done. And people who know me and give me a chance to figure it out, they can read my testimonials and trust that more than like what you might think of me. And that's okay. Like, it's always okay if you do push some people away, because those are just not your people. The people who might not like your branding, the people who might not like your presentation and who you authentically are. If you push the people away who don't like you, that's okay. You don't want to work with people who don't genuinely like you. So I just think that's just awesome. It's just a good message for people to really learn how to find themselves. So if they've listened to this and they are like, I need this, like I need her help, I need to figure out who I am, and I need to figure out how to show that. How can they connect with you? Where can they find you? And what is your offer, if you have anything to offer for us today?
Sure. I'd suggest people go get involved with my newsletter too. So much like you, I do it when I have something to say, when I'm aligned with it and I'm super excited for it, and then that'll come through it. And then when I'm not aligned, or like somehow some part of me is turned off, I'm focused on other areas, then it's not there either. And I'm the same way with my IG. I'm the same way with my website and getting that updated and things like that. Like, I bring my authenticity too, and my authenticity goes with the phases of my life as well. So
Awesome.
go to my website, theimpressioncode.com, and you can sign up for my newsletter, or I'm going to include a link to my little freebie on self-image. So it's a video, and
Okay.
people can go and watch that. It's an excerpt from a summit that I did. And if people want to, they can go and invest in that summit as well, the recordings from that. I think it's up for $44 right now. So I will include a freebie to that. And then if people also want to come to my IG, I check my DMs and things like that. And I'm always happy to have a little conversation and answer some questions and things.
Awesome. 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 Well, thank you so much again, Katherine, for being here. This is an awesome conversation. I learned a lot, like I've been in kind of like my own little business world, that a lot of times I don't realize all of these like businesses that people have started helping people in all these other areas that I don't think about because it's not part of what I do, but that are so important for people, and especially business owners who need good branding and self-presentation, and all of it. So just kudos for doing what you do. I think it's awesome. And thank you once again for being here. It was such a pleasure talking to you. Really enjoyed it. And for those of you listening, thank you guys so much for joining us today. I'm going to go ahead and shut down for the day. And I just want to thank you so much for listening to the Marketing and Mindset podcast today. And we will see you next time. Bye.